What does it, cousins? This is Jolyn GC, co-creator and co-producer of the Come Up series, and this is Wealth Rituals, a show about the mindset, insights, and emotional ups and downs on this journey we call wealth. We talk about wealth rituals all the time, but let's expand that definition. A wealth ritual is an intentional practice that enhances your financial, mental, emotional, and creative wealth. And today, we're talking about one of the most powerful wealth rituals of all, owning your identity and showing up fully expressed. Have you ever felt like your full self might be too much for the space you're in? We're talking about the wealth in showing up fully expressed. I'm talking head to toe, voice to present, story to story, because true wealth isn't just about money. It's about standing in who you are without apology. If you've been struggling to take up space or feeling like you have to shapeshift depending on the setting, stay with me. This episode might just be the confirmation you need. Before we dive in, I want to send a special thank you to Come Up cousin Florcy Morissette, who I met at Afrotech last fall. Ever since, we've been kicking it from Houston to Seattle, staying in these artsy streets and running an absolute muck, connecting, building, and thriving. We've been talking about how showing up fully as yourself creates opportunities beyond what you could ever imagine. My friend Florcy invited me to be on a panel called A Generation of AI, where AI stood for art intelligence, the future of the creative economy, expression, and ecosystem. So you know it was my jam. And I hadn't been on a panel in a while, and the last one I did, I was moderating the wildly successful Women in Tech panel at the Tech Wealth and Innovation Summit. Did you catch it? But this time, I was on the other side. And I was answering the questions, and let me tell you, that felt different. I was nervous, but not because I didn't know what to say, but because I hadn't had to publicly hold space for my own insights in a while. So I was hella rusty, and to make it even more interesting, I was stepping into a corporate space, which meant I thought I had to code switch a bit. And I was preparing myself for that slight subtle shift we do when we adjust to fit the environment we're in. But then I made a decision. I was gonna show up fully as myself, regardless. Have you ever felt like you needed to adjust how you show up depending on the space you're in? When I tell you I was intentional about how I showed up, I mean it. I didn't just bring my voice, I brought my whole presence. I wore a hat, much like today, to remind myself that every perspective I hold, whether it would be investor, attorney, artist, podcaster, curator, was in the room with me. I even wore a custom vest by my favorite designer, David Colley from South Africa, because my love for art and fashion was part of the visual conversation too. I showed up fully expressed. And do you know what happened? When I introduced myself and thanked the audience for allowing me to wear all of my hats, they applauded. And that moment right there affirmed something powerful. I didn't need to shrink. I didn't need to adjust. I could just be me. I could literally show up, say what I gotta say, and then go home, because that's not my workplace. But when was the last time you felt fully seen just for being yourself? What would it take for you to bring more of that energy into your daily life? At the end of that panel, there was a final question we hadn't been prepped for that was something to the effect of, what would you tell your younger self about AI, tech, and innovation today? And I was not expecting this one, but instantly a moment from my past came rushing back, one that changed everything for me. And I thought about the time I was up for a major art reward, an award I was sure I was gonna win. And then I got a rejection letter. And I was shocked. But the feedback, that shook me even more. Could you believe they told me that my artwork was too ethnic and not mainstream enough? Have you ever been told you were too much of something, or too different, too bold, or too niche? Well, that moment could have crushed me, but instead it made me pivot. Instead of trying to fit their definition of what art should be, I pitched my own idea, a virtual art gallery for Black emerging artists with no gallery representation. And guess what? I won. I used the funding from that winning to produce a monthly pop-up exhibition called Perspectives in Portraiture, what it's like being Black and creative in Seattle. And because of that opportunity, many artists had their first solo exhibition, they sold their artwork, and they were paid to participate. And that rejection, it turned into a bigger, wealthier opportunity, not just for me, but for an entire community of artists. Being a former criminal prosecuting attorney gave me the ability to easily recognize inequities and think of ways to remedy them. When I looked at my artist friends, I saw a pattern. Many of them had received similar feedback, much like I did. The common thread, though, we were Black, emerging artists with no gallery representation. So I pitched my idea at the World Domination Summit down in Portland, and I became the first Black woman to win. That success gave me the confidence to leverage the award and secure another grant that funded my pop-up curation. That pop-up resulted in yet another artist award, which came with funding, and I used it to produce my own solo exhibition featuring portraits of the very artists I had supported. And guess where that final solo exhibition was held? The Union, right here, which is the home of wealth rituals. It was a total full circle moment. This was a powerful reminder that past investments in yourself continue to give back in unexpected ways. What started as a rejection became the foundation for an entire ecosystem of artists thriving. The work I did back then planted seeds that continue to bear fruit, not just for me, but for the entire community I helped build. And isn't that the real wealth? Knowing that every time you bet on yourself, you're creating something that has the potential to keep growing, keep expanding, and keep giving back in ways you can't even see. I was living full-time as an artist, and I was thriving. One no got spun into gold, and that gold didn't bless just me, it blessed an entire ecosystem of artists. What's a moment where rejection led you to something even bigger? If you haven't reframed a no yet, what could you do differently next time? When you show up fully as yourself, the right people, opportunities, and rewards find you. You gain confidence because you're not bending to fit someone else's standard. You create alignment because your choices reflect who you truly are. And you attract wealth because people invest in authenticity, not watered down versions. Had I chosen to shrink, I would have missed out on building a thriving art career, supporting other artists, and ultimately bringing wealth rituals into existence. Looking back, I sometimes wonder, what if I had let that rejection define me? What if I had accepted the idea that my work wasn't mainstream enough and dimmed my light? The truth is, showing up fully expressed, owning every part of who you are, is a wealth building strategy. Why? Because there is money to be made at the intersection of whatever your interests are and simply being you. What I told my younger self and what I want to tell you is this. There will be people who say you can't, but let nothing stop you. Let no thing stop you. Be unstoppable. What's one way you can step more fully into your identity this week? So, cousins, here's what I want you to walk away with. Showing up fully is the wealthiest thing you can do. Rejection is sometimes redirection. Let no one define what's too much for you. Own your intersection. Art, tech, wealth, whatever it is, there's space for you. This week, I challenge you to wear something that makes you feel powerful and show up fully expressed. Today, I chose this silk scarf. I like the colors, I like how it feels, and it's the production value of it all. Because remember, your wealth is in your full self-expression. And when I say full self-expression, I'm spelling full self-expression. All the S's are dollar signs, okay? So that's at least $3 signs. That's money in the bank. This is Jolyn GC in the place to be, and this has been another episode of Wealth Rituals. See you next time.